welcome everyone to join today. Today our event is Take Control of Your Tech Career and Thrive. And I'm your host today. I'm Sarah. Today, we have another host too. Is our co-founder Youqi. Okay, and also for our exciting panel later on, we are honored to invite 3 experienced panelists to join us. Hubert experienced it in Airbnb, Cliff experienced in Graph, and Victor experienced it in Carousel. We'll introduce them later more in our panel section, so please look forward to it. Okay, so today we have a rich agenda. Yeah, we'll share with you our insight and mid-career growth, and have experts to talk about how they navigate their careers. And then we'll show you how our attempt to the problem. And last but not least, I will introduce to you this spring cohort, what we will represent in this spring cohort. Yeah. So before we start everything, let me just have a quick interaction with you. So I would like to ask you, what is your reason for attending today's events? So I now open up a poll in Zoom. So let me know your answer, and you can choose multiple answers if you want. And if you choose the answer others, then just leave your answer in the chat room so that I can know what is your purpose. Cool. So a lot of people are looking forward to learning from our experts and hear their experience. And most of the people also want to know more about RISE program. Thank you. Yeah, and I believe that you'll get what you're looking tonight, because we have heard a lot of your thoughts from your register form, and we and the panelists are prepared accordingly. So that's just let's just look forward to the later events. Okay, I will stop the poll now. And also, it is really important to have your feedbacks. So stay with us until the end of the event and fill out our event survey. We will share with you the event's recording and more course information if you submit the events. Now, let's let the show begin. Okay, I will let Youqi to start our events with our first section. So I will stop sharing screen. Okay.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, okay. Pretty clear.
We are in different rooms, so that's why we want to make sure that the volume of our audio is consistent. If any of us become too loud or too little, just let us know through the chat room. All right, so everyone, I'm Youqi. It was very exciting. It's very exciting to see 130 of you tonight. I would like to, before we dive into our topic tonight, why do we want to talk about mid-career growth? I also like to first introduce you who we are and our history experiences when we are what we observe in the in talent development. So started in a very small classroom in Taipei back in 2014, Avacam has been very dedicated in helping talents in Asia to build meaningful careers in tech with industry relevant tech skills. We are hoping that, we believe that the ability to master technology skill will be critical to realize individuals' potential. So that's our mission. And in the past couple of years, we have a history of 8 years. We've successfully developed many new talents, and we built the latest generation of tech talents in Asia. Our alumni were able to drive their career growth. They also have formed a very strong network in Asia's ecosystem. Nonetheless, while we celebrate our outcome in helping new talents start their tech careers, it has come to our attention that mid-career has become the next biggest bottleneck for talents to continue to grow. We've seen that we've been tracking software developers and data professionals in the past 3 years. We've accumulated a survey with about 8,000 respondents. So there's one question that we asked them, how well you performing in your current job? How satisfied are you in your current job? If we look at the respondents, the software developers and data professionals with about 3 years of experience, we see that majority of them, 72% of them, say that they can independently perform their job assignments, their task assignments very efficiently and effectively. So these are our typically considered effective individual contributors. So they've done their job well. But when we look at the other question, it is very shocking to us that this group of people are the least satisfied. More than half of them tell us that they are not satisfied with their current role because of very limited growth opportunities. So this finding has prompted us to really deep dive into the pain points after these talents join the industry, launch their career. After a couple of years, what happened? Why such dissatisfaction? Right. So what we've discovered and what we hear from the individuals, including many of you when you sign up the registration form for this event, you tell us many of your top of mind considerations are around, we don't know what we don't know, right? So for talents, we heard many of them told us that what they learned in the past, which was very effective for them to execute their jobs in the past when they're at the junior level, doesn't allow them to progress anymore. So what they've learned in the past is no longer sufficient, and they don't know what's the next set of skills that they're required to learn. Should they continue to deepen their technical skills, or should they work on their communications, or there are other different business issues that they need to understand better? So the roadmap or the topics are very much very unclear to them. The other question that we hear very frequently is they're in an environment that they don't have enough challenging problems to solve. Lacking the exposure to complex problems has become a key inhibitor for engineers to learn, because oftentimes learning comes from solving problems. If the environment, if the company doesn't offer different problems for the talents to solve, then their learning will stop. The third point is what we observe from many of you in the registration form. We hear that in the mid-career, either is the 3rd year in the industry or the 5th year, it varies by different individuals. Many of you have been starting to thinking about what should be my career path? What are the requirements? And am I fit for that? In my life stage, do I want to choose this certain role for my next 5 years or 10 years? So this becomes a very personal questions, and also it requires a better understanding of different roles and different paths. So that's what we hear from many of you, right? So there's a one side story from the talents. We've also hear from the companies. It's interesting that we hear from hiring managers, we hear from CTOs and CPOs. Many of them say that, well, company growth has outpaced talent growth. We were happy that we get investments from our investors. We are ready for the next stage. But there's huge gap in between the tech leadership versus the execution team, that no one in the middle can help realize the vision. So they feel that the next challenge, the next growth was unable to be, cannot be continued, fulfilled by the current team. Yet at the same time, they also tell us that, well, not everything can be learned internally. While they need to progress to the next level, there are some capabilities that they don't have internally, and therefore they cannot teach the talent, but they need the capability to grow to the next level, to level up as a company. So it looks like a dead end, or it's become very obvious to us that talent growth has become it's become obvious to us that without leaders, the industry cannot grow. And without, if the industry doesn't grow, then talents have no room to grow. So this loop, if worked well, it will be a very positive loop that allows the industry and talents to grow from one another. But if there's a gap or there's a dysfunction among the two, then both the industry and the talents are stuck here. So that is why we see that it's not an individual problem. When we hear that many of you are concerned about what should I go next, it may sound like an individual issue. It might also not be a single company's problem, because we hear many companies, many at different stages or verticals tell the similar comments. So it seems to us that it's an industry-wide problem. If it's an industry problem, then it requires a very systematic approach to solve it. And that's why we'd like to attempt on this problem, and we would like to create a new learning environment through RISE, so that both the talents and the companies will be able to facilitate growth and not limited by current roles, current industries, or current companies. So our vision, we've extended our vision, our mission, to not just bringing talents into the tech industry, launching their career, but also be able to continue to level up and progress as they accumulate their experiences in the industry. So we're hoping that we'll be able to help more individual contributors, either they are senior individuals or they are already tech leaders, can become a more experienced leaders and help not just the junior team members, but also the industry to grow better. With that, it will be very naive if we think that we can just build that environment by AlphaCamp alone. This is impossible. We believe that the community or the learning will only happen if we have enough talent, enough leaders, experienced experts to participate and shape the community together. We aspire to be the medium. We aspire to be the catalyst that will recruit, invite different talents to be part of this community who share our vision. So today we are very lucky, we are very honored to invite 3 of our expert instructors as our panelists. We'll like let me go to the next page. They will share with us how they navigate their careers, what they've experienced in their mid-career, and what are their learnings, how they can share with all of you. So without further ado, I would like to invite Hubert, Cliff, and Victor to give us a quick intro, a very brief intro about yourself. How do you feel that your experience might be relevant to the group today? Hubert, can we start with you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Hubert. You can also call my Chinese name Chiwei. So I'm an engineer by training. I was lucky enough to study in the US, and then after graduation, I found a job in the US and start my career as a software engineer, and actually got an opportunity to become an engineer manager. And then found out that I actually don't like to become a manager just yet. So joining a startup and have fun there. And later that startup was acquired by Airbnb, and then got another chance to try out to become a manager. And this time I learned from the first time. So after almost, I think 18 years of US life, I decided to move back to Taiwan, and lucky enough, I met Yuchi and Bernard to talk about this program. So I'm super happy to be able to join this program, and also happy to be able to share some of my thoughts today with you.
Thank you, Hubert. Hubert has mentioned a lot of his experience from his own startup, his choices to not become a manager and then become a manager, and of course Airbnb. So I'll walk you through his journey with my questions later on. Now let me move on to Cliff. Cliff, can you say hi to our audience and tell them a bit about yourself?
Hi everyone. My name is Cliff. So right now I'm actually a freelance data consultant, helping smaller companies with their analytics journey. And I'm also on the side, kind of like doing teaching and stuff with regards to data analytics. So previously I was working at Grab, Hence I have this green color shirt here. And before that, I was working at Carousel. So at Grab, I was actually helping with fraud detection as a data analyst. And at Carousel, I was doing digital marketing. Yeah, so I have kind of experiences in a few tech companies. So I'm really happy to kind of like share with you guys like what I've experienced in the past.
Thank you, Cliff. So a few very high growing startups and corporates, which later on turned into a big company, and then a very interesting switch to a freelancer role. So this might may be relevant to some of you as a career options. We'll talk more about that. Last but not least, Victor, Neil, can you share with the group who you are and your experience in the past?
Hi everyone, I'm Victor, Student Success Director at Alpha Chem, where I lead our student success team. I'm also responsible for our software engineering bootcamp that you might have seen in one of the slides earlier. Prior to joining AC, I was employee number 1 at a local Singapore startup called Carousel. And at the time of my departure, I was a director of engineering over there as well. So you might have noticed that Cliff and I did work at Carousel at one point in time. So yeah, we were colleagues at one point in time.
Yeah, so I was lucky that I've been working with Victor for the past 14, 15 months. So his experience of launching a product as the very first employee to running, an app with millions of users is very different. So the stages, even for me as a non-tech person, I learned a lot from him. So it will be quite interesting and quite exciting if you all can learn from these experts. All right, so let me go down to the panelists. In the next 45 minutes, Sarah, do I still have 45 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will be covering a few questions, a few types of questions. First is their career experiences. There were some highlights that they've already shared, but I will deep dive into that. I will also talk about, ask them what are the real challenges in their mid-career, right? So it all looks very shiny and, successful. What are the true stories behind that? And then thirdly, we are a learning community. We'll like them to talk about how we should learn, what are the learning tips that they will offer to you. The very last is we are in the stage with constant changes. Starting from digital and now AI, right? So I don't know by the time we meet again, when the course starts, what would be the new AI apps in a month. With this rapid change in the background, how should we look forward? How should we prepare for ourselves in the future? So these will be the 4 sets of questions that I will be asking. There will be some slides with the questions listed so that you will follow better of our conversation. But I do encourage you that you can, along the panel discussion, if there are some questions that you'd like to cover and not being addressed, please list your question on the Slido. We will not be answering the questions directly from the Zoom chat room because it's harder to keep track. But I will recommend everybody to use Slido. If you see relevant questions that you're interested, you can upvote it so that we can come back at the end of the panel. We'll have 10 minutes to go through additional Q&As. I'll ask the panelists to select 1 question from your list, and hopefully that will give you enough insights. All right, so without further ado, I'll go down. So very first question. I'll start in a reverse order. So Victor, so you mentioned that you were the first employee at Carousel, and then you made it to when you left, you were director of engineering. So the total journey is long, 9 years. What makes you leave? So it has been different stages, a lot of changes. And would like to hear from you. How do you make that important decision to change an environment for yourself?
Yeah, I was super lucky to be at Carousel at the right place and the right time. So as the company grew, I got a chance to be constantly exposed to like new challenges that enabled me to grow continuously. And as the company grew, we hired more senior leaders as well. So for me, that was great because I could learn from them both directly and indirectly, looking at how they, answer people's questions, how they plan out their strategies. Those were very helpful for me. After about close to 8.5 years, I found that my pace of learning has slowed down. The company has, in terms of our product line, our features, most of the things have stabilized. So I decided to, hey, let's take that chance, go on a sabbatical. And during the sabbatical, I kind of found out that one of the things that motivated me at work was being able to mentor and watch people grow and become successful. So that made me decide to take the plunge into the tech education industry, which led me to joining AC last year.
Exciting. So inserting your influence in a different way by building the product or building the next generation talents. I hope many of you will be part of the talents that he helped influence. So then let's deep dive a bit on Hubert. So you mentioned earlier that you had a startup and you decided to, when your company was acquired by Airbnb, right? You were in Silicon Valley and for a while, but then you decided to leave and move to Seattle. Can you share with us what prompted your decision? And after a couple of years now, looking back, did it work out the way you hoped? Did it meet your expectations?
Yeah, happy to share this part of my journey. So actually, our startup was actually based in Seattle. I was in Seattle for my first job at Expedia. And then I joined startup also in Seattle. And when the company was acquired by Airbnb, part of the deal was to ask us to move down to the Silicon Valley and join the headquarters to mesh with the folks there better. So I did that, and then at first I actually enjoyed that a lot. I think Silicon Valley is definitely a very exciting place. A lot of startup, lots of founders. You can overhear all kind of startup ideas in any place, like even in toilet. Sometimes people random stranger just like this exchanging ideas over there. So and not to mention I actually couple with many of founders on Uber. When I was paired with them on Uber pool and found out, oh, you're working a startup, you found a startup, things like that. So it was very shiny, very exciting to experience that. I think that's definitely a plus experience. On the negative side, the commute was super long. The school system there is not great. At that time, so I have two daughters. At that time, my older one was about to go to the elementary school. So I have to think about education, think about which school, think about where we live. And then when I look at the place that we want to live, it's not affordable. So and then my commute will be terribly long. I don't have time for my family. So I actually work. So a few folks in our original staff all share similar feelings. So we decided to persuade Airbnb to allow us to move back to Seattle and kick off a new branch over there. And I would say that was one of the best decisions I have made. Immediately moving back to the Seattle area, I feel like school system definitely work much better than the Bay Area. And then being able to start a new branch in the company actually feel like a startup in a more grown up company. So that was definitely a very nice experience. Earlier, Yuchi also mentioned like we grew from 5 to 350 before pandemic, and I think after pandemic right now probably 450 already when I left last year. So that was a very fulfilling experience for me as well. Yeah. Well, so I would say that was definitely a good decision for me.
That's very inspiring, especially in March. Today is your March, right? It's International Women's Month. So there are so many questions related to work, life choices, despite of the gender, but when you age or when you mature in a different life stage, there seems to be different priorities that we need to juggle. But what I think Hubert just shared was very inspiring, because it's not a compromise per se. It's not because of your personal need or because the commute is hard to tolerate, then you go for a second tier choices that you can pursue. What I hear is if you share that pain point personally, you rally your friends with the similar pain points, and then you influence and persuade the company to actually offer to actually open a new office that might serve similar talents better, because you understand that it's a pain point that deserves some solution. So we might come back later on, but I feel this is a very new perspective that it's not a zero-sum game. We're not choosing A or B and they cannot coexist. Maybe A and B becomes something greater to XYZ. So that's very encouraging. Then let me move to Cliff. So you mentioned that you work in Carousel and Grab. Both of them are very rapid growing startups in Southeast Asia, right? Those are the iconic names. Instead of climbing the corporate ladders, with 9 years in the company, you've decided to pursue a very different career path. So you dedicate your time with freelance projects, consultations, and then some teaching. Why did you design your career this way? Did it work out for you? I'm sorry, let me move to the next page.
Hi, Yuji. Hi, sure, yeah. I guess for me, I've always been somebody that's a bit adventurous. I think that is one thing that I have to put up. And I think later on when we talk a bit more about it, but I'm actually not a tech-trained person. So I'm actually an econs major. So I actually kind of like fumbled into this industry by myself in a way. So for me, when I started to have this opportunity to kind of teach courses, right, in particular adult learners, it kind of drew me back to the time where I was learning like Python on my own. I was like struggling. There's just a lot of Googling and stuff. So I guess I had this natural affiliation towards people who are like wanting to improve themselves and just wanting to like see how it can go with their newfound skills. So eventually when I was doing it part-time, I realized actually, hey, this is something that maybe I can commit further because it's something that I really want to kind of do. So that's the teaching part. And of course, actually, I realized that with my experiences in a few tech companies, there are also companies that I actually could kind of work with. Interestingly, actually, a lot of these companies, they do have a lot of data, but unfortunately, maybe they don't have, usually don't even have a data hire within the team. Yeah. So in a sense, I come in as a consultant, I kind of like help them. They don't really have a lot of budget at times. So I kind of sometimes have to think of very creative ways to kind of help them with their data analytics journey. So for me, it's kind of interesting because I feel like I'm like helping the small boys to fight against the kind of the bigger corporate like companies in that sense. Yeah. And I think for me, I think one interesting thing is that I actually kind of feel that I can always be learning new things because when I'm dealing with different companies, they always have similarly like very similar but yet also very different kind of problems. So I feel that I actually get exposed to a lot of things and I actually can learn a lot. And for me, it kind of just lets me kind of feel that, okay, I'm still growing. And I feel that at the end of the day, if I'm not growing, there's a chance that actually my clients would maybe say, okay, Cliff is not providing any value, let's end the project. So for me, in a sense that if I continuously have clients that I'm actually serving, it kind of also shows that I'm providing value. And I feel that I kind of like that sense that I'm providing value to society through these companies that I'm supporting. Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-on question, Cliff? So you mentioned a lot that this journey or this allows you to have different project exposures and then you can continue to learn. But you also mentioned that many of these may not have their existing data team in-house and you are helping them building that capability. Some might argue that working in a very established team might develop more professional skills or more sophisticated data skills that can grow better. But Cliff, you definitely, apparently you feel that you have enjoy a different, you continue to grow and then you definitely see different challenges and learnings. So can you share a bit on that? I'm sure that some will assume that different environments will offer different sets of experiences and learning opportunities. How do you continue to learn and grow by enabling different clients or working on different projects?
Yeah, I think that's is actually quite interesting for me as well once I started to kind of work with a lot of these clients. But I do feel that actually at the end of the day, is in a way also similar to what I've done in the past, in the sense that actually as a data professional, a lot of times I actually had to focus on understanding the problem and I kind of also explaining to the problem to business stakeholders who most probably are not as technical as me. Just that nowadays it's actually a bit more like maybe I'm speaking to like the CEOs or the business owners themselves. So a lot of times I can actually learn directly from them. And it's actually quite interesting to kind of figure out what are their pain points and just kind of explain to them in a way that actually gets them to understand, oh, okay, it's not because I want to implement like the system that costs much money and I'm just trying to like earn money from you. But in a sense, it's more about how I can try to help you bring through this journey and I can actually explain all the different types of potentials that I can actually set up. Maybe I'm just doing basic stuff with no database, if cost is an issue and things like that. I feel that at the end of the day, I'm still kind of translating technical implementations to the layman. And I feel that this skill set is kind of actually universally applied to any situation, especially for tech people.
Got it. So Cliff, you mentioned that maybe after you establish the fundamentals, or when you become very proficient with the data skills that you already developed in Grab and Carousel, then having the access to the real business problems, talking to the CEOs, talking to the business leaders is actually introduce you at different forms of learning. We'll come back and share a bit more on when you want to level up in your mid-career, what kind of resources or exposure are more critical. So let me now move to a second set of questions. I would like to help the audience to learn more about all of you. What are the challenges that you face and overcome, right? So the second set will be, in your mid-career, what are the real challenges? We receive many questions regarding should I be a manager or should I continue to become a developer? Is it a requirement for me to manage a team if I want to move up, right? So I would like to ask Victor first, and then Hubert, because you seem to experience these decisions in your own career journey. Can you tell me about Victor, can you tell me about how you make your own choice? You mentioned that when you graduate from Carousel, you were engineering director, managing a big team. Why do you decide to pursue the management track?
Yeah, so as a startup, as the company grew, so Carousel's engineering team grew from a couple of engineers, then at the point we had about 10 engineers. So as a team, together with the founders, quite concerned about how we could effectively lead such a team. But apart from just, giving them work, and hoping that they would grow. So I think at that time, I happened to chance upon this very nice article written by it's on First Round. It's written by Jessica. It is an interview and a question format to Jessica McCallough, and it was and the topic was about what impactful engineering leadership looks like. So that really inspired me a lot, and gave me a lot of initial thinking framework on how engineering leadership could potentially help to improve our situation back then. So we very quickly discussed with the founders on how we should proceed, and thankfully we all agreed that we definitely need an engineering manager in the company. So within a couple of weeks, I became the engineering manager and people manager in Carousel. So there was no one else. There was no other people manager in Carousel at the time. So it was a very new experience for me. But I was fortunate in the sense I gradually picked up the ropes over the time. It was pretty challenging initially, but fortunately, like I said earlier, we had a lot of senior leaders who joined, so I was able to learn from them. And there were other engineering leaders who saw the challenges that we were facing, and they offered their time and mentorship as well. So that definitely made it easier for me to decide to continue to become an engineering manager.
So I'm sorry, I'll continue with the second question. You briefly mentioned a little bit, and then I'll come back to the previous question to ask Hubert. So Victor, you mentioned that when you take on this role, you are basically the first manager. And then as there are more people joining, you might be learning differently. So how did you make that happen? What are the key struggles that you can recall, and then how did you overcome that? So you basically self-learn with different posts here and there, and then you become a management expert. Is that?
Yeah, so I think initially there was a lot of reading, reading about books and articles about what leadership is. And then there were a lot of discussion with our mentors, and other senior leaders as well on how we could deal with the problems that we were facing in engineering and applying them, and solving them accordingly, actually. So I think one of the key things I remember was that at one point Carousel grew from 25 engineers to 100. So after we got past the challenges with hiring, one of the things we faced was that a lot of our existing tech workflows simply didn't scale accordingly. It used to work for 10, 25 people, but when you are at about 100 people, it just simply doesn't work. So that led to a lot of ultimately it led to a lot of issues in terms of the user experience for our app and website. So for example, one of the problems we had was that we had a big existing monolith system, backend system. It was experiencing a lot of what we call scaling issues. And we were forced, to go into discussions, planning it out at the company and strategy level. How do we prioritize, move from a monolith to a distributed system and towards microservices? And all at the same time, we have new engineers joining. So we had to figure out how to work together. And when you have a lot of new engineers join, and when most of them are pretty senior, they all have their own ideas that they bring in as well. So how do we decide which of their ideas or proposals are what's best for the company at that time? Because none of the ideas by themselves are bad ideas, but choosing the right decision for that point in time was critical. So we do have to spend a lot of time figuring out and learning from other mentors, how we build our own decision matrix and frameworks to help us make the right decision for the company at that time.
So it's not just about managing people, right? So I heard you mention a lot about deciding what could be the better solution for you at the time to scale. And then at the time you use distributed systems and microservices. And then you, of course, need to manage different perspectives from different experienced talents. But more importantly, you mentioned that what is your decision framework? How do you make decision? It's not that you are the smartest guy or you have the authority to say, hey, let's just do this. And then I don't care, every of you just go ahead and do it, right? So how do you facilitate, learn from experienced people, reach to a consensus, but really understanding the business issue and also the technology choices that you can choose from. Just a quick poll or reaction from the team, from the group here. Has anyone in your current work environment or your current work experience have solved or have faced with scaling problems as an engineering team? So Victor, I would like to understand how would you ask a question to the crowd? I'd like to understand how many have gone through similar situations and can resonate what you just shared. So it's a question about have you solved scaling issues? Is it a right question for the crowd?
I would position it as, have you encountered issues where you simply discovered that some of your maybe workflows, processes, they aren't working as well now compared to what they were before, and maybe you feel that there's a better way to work, but they're currently not being applied in your workplace.
Can I have a show of hands? Maybe let's not use the chat room, but then we can use, what function can we use on Zoom?
Just
If
the
you-
reactions.
Yeah, reactions. So all your workflows apply. at different stages? I'm going to try in Chinese again, right? 所以我想要问一下大家，有没有经历过刚才 Victor 分享过的？所以他刚才的例子是用一个他们需要去 scale 用最后 implement 的一个 distribution system 但是可以类比的情境比较像是当你既有的工作流程没有办法 support 目前的 business needs 需要去做改变才能够去解决更大的问题that's the analogy that we're trying to draw here, right? So you might face, if you face similar situations, so that may not require a distribution system, but it may require similar thinkings for you to think about how you make decisions, how do you choose different technology solutions. If you experience this, can I see a show of hands? Hubert and Ting Lee, I saw your raise your hand. So that's great. I hope that maybe we all can pay attention to your current workflow, the problems that you're currently solving. Has it been? Thank you, Zong. 谢谢. Has it been consistent, or have you actually been optimizing it without actually realizing it? So that might also be possible, right? So thanks, Victor, for the sharing. Let's come back to the same question, and I would like to hear from Hubert. You mentioned earlier that you first time decided not to become a manager, and then later on you pitched to the company that you want to help build a new office, and then you grow it to hundreds different size. So can you share with us how do you make the choice to be or not be a manager?
Yeah, I think the maybe we can talk about the first time when I became a manager. I think earlier in my career, I think that was more like a building function our parent put into us, right? So they said, well, one day I hope you become something great, and then soon you manage people, right? That they sort of have that kind of expectation on me. That so I didn't think too much about it. I saw I want to become a manager. So when the opportunity came, and then my skip label asked me if I wanted to become a manager to actually replace a manager who just left. I say yes, so without thinking too much. And I recently wrote an article about that, why you shouldn't accept. That's my learning. You shouldn't accept on the spot. You should talk with your manager or your skip label more about that decision, right? And then I think from that experience, I actually learned a lot, right? That wasn't smooth because I wasn't equipped. No one trained me on how to become a manager. And then I encounter a lot of common problems that I now realize those are actually common problems, but no one told me those are common problems. So I saw I'm terrible. I'm a terrible manager. That's why my team doesn't hang out with me anymore. Or like I can make everyone happy, or I can I don't feel a sense of accomplishment by being a manager. So that's the point I decided to join a startup and become an IC again. And that process or experience actually helped me a lot, because the second time I tried it, I should know what to expect. And also, I think the other key point here is I actually found some peers I can talk to. When I first tried it, because I was so afraid, I did not even disclose my fears, right? I feel like I don't want others to feel like I'm not doing a good job, so I didn't share that with other people. But now looking back, that was not a good decision, because actually a lot of people share the same struggle. And then by sharing that with my peers, actually we can brainstorm about ideas. And later I actually mentor a lot of junior manager, and then a lot of time when they describe their symptom, I can immediately have empathy with them. I can talk with them and share my past experience, and from that they can feel much better and they can grow from that. So I think that's actually my biggest learning from that experience.
Hubert, did you find your peer internally or somewhere?
Yeah, I think at Airbnb, I was able to find some peers internally. They are typically not in the same org as my org, right? So we have some healthy distance. And at the same time, we can talk about some of the struggle more objectively. So that's the benefit of having some peer manager that can work with you. And that's part of the reason why I'm hoping in the RISE program that we can create a manager community. We actually have a lot of engineer community or tech community, but there's very few engineer manager community. And from my own experience, I know engineer manager are super lonely.
Yeah.
You can share a lot of things with your direct report, right? And then when you talk to your manager, sometimes they feel like you're complaining. So you also don't want to share to all your frustration. So that's why I feel like it will be super beneficial to create a community for the engineering managers.
Yeah, usually the bandwidth for a engineering manager is 1 to how many engineers?
I think the healthy ratio should be like 8 to 12. 12 is stretching a lot, but like if you just start from maybe 4 or 5, but you want to be able to grow to 8. Beyond 8, that's sort of like a stretch already.
Yeah, I interviewed quite a bit of companies, startups in Taiwan, and then I've noticed that many will have a team of maybe 20 to 30. And then they will have tech leads or different project leads, depending on the projects or assignments. But the real EMs is maybe just one person managing 20 to 30, right? And then in Taiwan, it is rare, it is not common for an organization to have an engineering team with 50 or 60 and above, right? So usually you might be the only engineering manager, the formal one, other than the tech leads who rotates on project basis. And so oftentimes people might need to reach out outside of the current organization to actually talk to someone who do something similar and can understand the challenges that you face, right? So when many of you move up, you might also feel similar challenges. It's quite easy to rant or complain or being understood by your peers when you are learning, when you are first in the job. But it becomes increasingly lonely or on yourself when you try to level up. So that's also part of the reason why we like to create a learning community to allow everybody to share and learn from similar peers without the limitation of org structures, right? Got it. So Hubert, did we cover this already?
Sort of, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Then let me quickly move to Cliff. So Cliff, your situation is different, and I would like to ask you to share some perspectives around how tech talents to make impact. So when we expect seniors or leaders, we will usually say that, oh, it's not just getting your task done, it's not just getting the job done, it's generating impactful work, right? So you'll need to have business impact. So it's easier said than done, and this might be particularly difficult for data team. So let me frame this for in the context of data. Other than generating dashboards or reports, there are always many different kinds of needs from different BUs or PMs, might not be immediately considered valuable or impactful. right? So I'd like to listen to you. How did you demonstrate impact? So did you experience that kind of challenge in terms of what's your the impact of your work, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, I guess it kind of really depends on the data maturity of the organization as well. But I feel regardless, right? I think the most important thing that unfortunately I think a lot of data professionals don't realize is that it's not about like how good your Python is or how good your Tableau is. I think at the end of the day, the data professional will be supporting a particular domain. Like previously, I was in digital marketing, and then I was in analytics fraud. And I think the most important thing is actually for the data professional to really understand their domain. So to really understand, okay, for digital marketing, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to optimize for reach? Am I supposed to optimize for spends? Similarly for fraud analytics, how am I supposed to detect fraud? Like, what am I detecting fraud for? Because a lot of times analytics just can't be like, okay, I have a perfect model or I have a very high detection rate, but it's always linked to a business outcome. And a lot of times these business outcomes are kind of like, at least the business stakeholders are more familiar with them. So a lot of times you actually kind of really have to know the domain. And from there on, you can kind of actually work with your stakeholders and kind of figure out, hey, as we kind of clear some of the tasks, you can slowly start to think, hey, actually, I am the kind of like the data guy. And once you have more domain knowledge, you technically are the best person in your organization to think about how data can amplify the impact of your team, be it digital marketing, be it fraud analytics, be it fraud analytics and stuff. So I think it's really important to kind of appreciate what your domain does, and really kind of just speak to your stakeholders, understand their pain points. So a lot of communication, a lot of building kind of like understanding what the whole team is looking at. And I think that's the first step. After that, right? Once your like stakeholder realizes that, okay, you are really listening and stuff, I think it's really about building that trust as well. Because there will be instances where you have like 20 data requests and you can't support maybe some of the requests. Of course, maybe you might have a manager that can help you prioritize, right? But at the end of the day, you need to hit the level where when you say that certain things can't be done because of certain constraints, your stakeholders trust you on that because you have that working relationship. He respects you for your determination to understand domain, and you're able to actually give like impactful ideas and maybe even explain things in a way that they understand, because you understand that, hey, I'm looking at ROI, or I'm looking at cost per install or cost per listing. You can actually use the language to kind of convince them and explain why data can and can't do certain things. You can actually slowly kind of gear you towards some of the more high impactful projects when you have the time. Yeah. So I think very importantly is to really know your own domain, the domain that you're supporting, and kind of build that trust with your stakeholders from there.
Got it. Thank you. So this ties back to having access to to understand the real business problems. Therefore, you will be able to communicate and help them see the impact. If you don't have the access, that might be the first limitation, right? So let's now move to learning part. So I've heard many of you share how you make different decisions, change your roles along the way. So there must be a lot of adaptation and learning. Can I ask Victor to share? Do you have a mentor? So Hubert mentioned a peer for Victor. Is there someone that you learn from, or how do you get some guidance for you to make more impact on your career? What did you learn from them?
Yeah, I have an indirect and a direct mentor. So I'll go with the direct mentor first. The direct mentor was actually someone she was like a leadership coach that I had, Xiong. And I think her style of coaching was, asking very inquisitive questions. And she was able to very quickly detect, if I, at the time, a junior leader, was trying to shirk away from problems that she thinks, like leaders should solve, she'll very quickly find out, and she'll be asking me, why are you not thinking about this? Why are you not thinking about that? And there were times where she was asking me, because I just made the transition from being a software engineer to a manager, she was asking me, are these things that you should be doing yourself, or should you use it, or should you let your team solve this problem? Because whenever you take on things to solve by yourself, you are depriving your team of a chance, to learn and grow as well. So very, very helpful, very powerful, like sort of coaching sessions that I had with her. Now, in terms of the indirect mentor, sorry, like Jessica McCullough, the one that I was in the article earlier. So I cheated. So there was once I was responsible for hosting a tech conference in Singapore, a Python conference. So I was like, hey, she's working on a Python project. So I took the chance to invite her as a keynote speaker. So that got her down from the States to Singapore. I was able to have a conversation with her. So that was nice, but she was more of an indirect mentor where she doesn't know it's a one-way relationship that I
With
yeah,
all
but
the
this
code you learn from her. Okay.
yeah.
So I guess the indirect mentors might not have the opportunity to ask you questions directly, but
Yes.
but the Japanese career coach that you mentioned earlier was very interesting. So instead of telling you what to do, you find it most valuable by listening to her very direct and sharp questions. How is it helping? Can you think of the questions yourself?
Not really. I think for junior managers, sometimes especially when you're trying to wrestle, like how do I what's my role as an engineering manager? How should I be, like what kind of impact should I have? And when you start getting in that mood, you may start doing a lot of things yourself because you feel like you need to contribute, you need to show that you're helping. But it's in cases like this where her type of questions really strike home, like, are you sure you shouldn't be giving this opportunity to your team to solve? And that got me like thinking, yeah, that makes sense. But at that moment, like when you are lost, you're trying to figure out your own position. That was what I found helpful.
Yeah, I asked this question purposely as a bait to draw this attention to draw this to everyone's attention. Because in our learning environment, in the live sessions that you'll be learning from experts, there will be a lot of questions pounding on you. So we had a end-to-end data infrastructure pilot that we just run in the last December. Whenever there are interactions with the instructors, oftentimes it's not about them telling you what the best practice are. It's you proposing your own ideas, and then you will receive a lot of questions asking you why this and why not that. Have you thought of that? It is a very effective way for you to listen to yourself and then listen to others' feedback. Sometimes when we become more and more mature or experienced, more senior, it becomes rare and rare that we'll get to listen to questions because you feel that you know this task very efficiently. You just get into the doing mode. And then without having a chance to sit back and think about and internalizing your own decisions, that actually deprives you from really learning and growing. So that's why I asked Victor to share about when he got asked by his coach, how does that help him? And it's helpful in terms of defining your role as a manager, but it's also helpful if you're thinking about making different technology choices, designing your architecture and so on. So it's not just about a personal, about a soft topic. Okay, let me move on to the next learning question. Can I ask Hubert maybe, how do you choose to learn in a generation like this? There are so many hot topics nowadays. We could mention blockchains, NFTs last year, not to mention the recent AIs. But then as a software developer, there are always new tools, new technologies. How do you decide what to learn? How do you make sure that this is useful for you? Does that need to be useful for the next 2 years or 5 years or 10 years down the road? Can you share a few tips to the audience here?
Sure. Well, my first advice to you is take something you like to learn. That's the key, right? So for example, I'm very biased here. You mentioned crypto. I learned nothing about crypto in the last few years. I intentionally ignore it, not trying to say it has no value, just because it wasn't interesting enough to me, right? I actually have a account. I trade a few coins, try it out, right? I use the product, but I don't try to understand all the technical details. I don't try to apply that to all my job, right? And on the other hand, recently, the generative AI, I'm super excited about it. I feel very connected to it. So when I learn it, I feel like I feel like it's a very fulfilling process to myself. I don't feel tired. So that's a good learning topic for me because that actually make my life better, make me feel better, even in this learning process. So I think that's key number one. So don't force yourself to learn something you don't like because later in your life you'll regret that. I think, well, our parent probably forced us to learn a lot of things like that, but when you have the choice for yourself, for your own life, take control and pick something that actually interests you. I think that's key number one. Secondly, I think there are things that change and there are things that doesn't change as much. In terms of technology, it's similar. For example, front-end technology changed a lot in the past few years. I actually worked on a project that when I unpacked the code base, I could see like 6 different tags used in the span of 3 years, just because every new developer tried to put the new stuff in there and then just bury the legacy code down. So but at the same time, if you try to catch that and if you feel interested in that, that's totally fine. But on the other hand, I would say there are some principle or design pattern that won't change as much. And then I find those things that can be applied universally. And you probably will see those patterns show up again in the new technology, right? So those things you should pay more attention and make sure you understand those patterns better. That will be my recommendation for everyone.
I see. So make something that's worth the investment of your time, be it something that you're interested or something that's repeatable with similar patterns in the next couple of years. Let's move on to something that is a bit similar. So you talk about crypto, which is a huge hype last year, but the recent hypes is not crypto, it's a generative AI. And then if we backward 3 months or maybe still recently going on, the layoff is still a very intimidating trend that is still happening, right? So I'll like the each of the panelists, maybe we use this as an ending question and sharing to the crowd before we move on to the Slido. Can you share and suggest what our audience should do? Hopefully we can move beyond being stressed or anxious about it because it's no point being, it doesn't help, but what could help, right? How would you suggest everyone to be prepared for the change? Can I start with Cliff, and then we go with Victor and then Hubert as an ending?
Sure. I think for me, my answer would sound a bit funny because this is like we're all in tech, right? But I always feel that like tech is always changing. And I think to me, it is even better if we all just embrace tech, like embrace technology in general. Because and how I frame it, right, in the sense is that like if Python wasn't developed, I would have been coding. I don't think I can do any analytics in like assembly or C++. Similarly, if there was no Google, I won't be as proficient in my work because there's a lot of things I need to Google, to be honest. Like I don't remember every piece of code there, right? So to me, I don't see it as something that will replace me. I see it that, hey, now I actually have a new tool that I can put into my toolbox. So I think that it's important to actually kind of embrace and understand what's possible with all this kind of new technology, any form of new technology, and just kind of see how it affects my work, how I can use it. Nowadays, because I'm a freelancer, right, like I actually use it sometimes for like copywriting, or I use it to kind of maybe help do some code debugging. Is it possible? Just understand what are the potential use cases, and just embrace it. Because to me, it's like, oh, there's a new Google that I can use that's even better than Google. Yeah, so that's how I would go with it.
Got it. Thank you, thank you, Cliff. Victor, next to you.
Yeah, I think like is generative AI as a sort of the key current like trending keyword, but For me, I term it as something called AI literacy. We used to have this thing called digital literacy where we made the move from analog to digital. I think AI will be playing that role, and AI will be augmenting a lot of our roles in future as well. And the best way really is to get prepared for these changes, to start using these tools. There's a lot of them coming out, but starting with the more popular ones like using GPT in your workflow or ChatGPT if you're too lazy, is one way to go. The other way is to try and align your interests with the tools, such as all these AI tools. For example, I personally love taking photos. So what I do is that before I go to the tourist, when I go for my holidays, I'll use Midjourney to help me visualize what kind of scenes I want to take. It gives me inspiration on how to take better photos, and at the same time helps me practice like what we call prompt engineering, right? How to write good prompts for like ChatGPT, for example. So it's very important to build up that literacy if you haven't yet, because that's sort of like the foundation on how you will be using all these AI tools to augment your workflows in the future.
All right, Hubert, I know you are also quite into AI generated images. Can you end this question and this session for us? How would you suggest our audience to be prepared for this change?
Yeah, I think in the last few weeks, I actually have been trying to use Stable Diffusion to generate photos as well. And recently, I tried to pair program with ChatGPT, and I found that actually pretty fulfilling, because now I have a perfect peers that won't complain. When I give them feedback, they always being polite and say apologize, and which is not the case for human beings. But it actually increased my productivity a lot. So I found that being very important for the next generation human being, right? So imagine that if we really want to go to Mars or somewhere far away, probably this is the only way that we human could now be empowered to create something even better than what we can today. So I feel like that it's actually pretty exciting, and I think it's an accelerator for our human being, and probably can help us create something much better than what we can see today. So I encourage everyone to try that out. Like I say, if you really don't like it, you don't have to force yourself, but do give it a chance. And this technology offering is changing very rapidly. So come back to it. I know a lot of people are learning to do prompt engineering, and maybe in 2 or 3 months, you don't even need to do that anymore. So that's also something that you should stay tuned, and probably you will get better very quickly.
Thank you, everybody. I'll stop the image sharing. So the slide sharing. I think we've covered quite a bit from your journey, the challenges and struggles, and how we should learn and be prepared for the future. Right. So can we we'll now go into the Slido and see what are the other questions that we might be able to help the crowd a bit more. So let me see. So there are a few questions. Actually, Sarah, do you mind suggesting the questions that you see fit for our panelists?
Yeah, for impact questions, we have two. I would like to ask 3 panelists to answer. The first one is about how do you show the impact when being a software engineering manager who doesn't have much time to code? I think this is a question that's when engineer become a manager, they will face. So maybe they give some insight to our audience. Let's start with Hubert.
Sure. This is actually a really important question for engineers, especially when you become a manager. Earlier I mentioned the first time I became a manager, I feel helpless. And then one of the reasons might because I feel like I didn't have any impact. when my team runs smoothly, I feel like I have nothing to do. So they are all great. So I have nothing to do with that. When they are in trouble, I feel like I'm terrible. I make them feel terrible. So one way or the other, I feel bad. But that's not the case for engineer manager. A good day is everyone can perform at their best without troubling you, right? So that's actually the best days, is like when everyone feel like they have what they need, and then they have the right guidance, right goal, they have the right resources. But to achieve that, I actually require a lot of planning, require a lot of consideration for your team, because unless they have the skill or resource ahead of time, they could be blocked all the time, right? So that's something as a manager you could actually watch out. If you have a functional team, your team will feel great and then they are not blocked. That's the impact you can make. And why is that important? Because when you are successful as a manager that way, you unblock potential for tens, if not hundreds of people, right? So I think that's something to keep in mind. That's very different than an IC. As an IC, you ship code, you want to see your code in production, generate revenue, things like that. But as a manager, you have very different metrics. What do you think, Victor?
Yeah, so just adding on, I think for compared to a software engineer where your unit of work could be the code that you're writing right now, getting your test to pass or completing the features you have in your current sprint. I think that is a very much shorter sort of a feedback loop. For when you're a manager, your feedback loops can be very long. Growing people takes months or years, and some projects and initiatives that you are leading could take at least maybe even half a year or a year for the results to show. But that also should frame your thinking along the lines of what sort of impact should we be able to see as a team, as an organization in 3, 6, 9 months, even a year. When you frame your thinking like that, the things you do will be slightly different. You won't be so stressed about do we have all the features done within this 1 or 2 weeks? You'll be planning out and thinking, my team is only able to complete a release maybe every month or so, or my company can only release an update to our app maybe every month or so. I would like to get it up to maybe a week. How do we get there? And this is a sort of impact that really changes the game and delivers impact at a company level even. So imagine if you can ship your app at least once every week, you will have about 52 chances a year to deliver value to your users, compared to once a month, which means you only have 12. So I think this is the sort of way to frame your thinking. And when you think of that this way, you will find that, hey, there's actually a lot of room for you to deliver impact. So the example I gave earlier about moving from a monthly release cadence to a weekly one was something that I was leading, and it was one of the initiatives I led. And we still have it running today.
Yeah. So another questions about impact is maybe we'll let Cliff to answer this question. So how do you learn, grow, and the ability to and confidence to influence people? Well, now Cliff is a freelancer, but maybe you have some experience in creating learning opportunities in your past company. So share a bit more to our audience.
Sure, Sarah. Okay. I think for me, a lot of people think influence is something that I need to push to people, like to influence you and stuff. But I always feel that actually influence is something that has to be given by somebody. And what I mean here is that actually it has to be built on trust. So I think it's always very important in terms of like communications, right? I think at the end of the day, if the person don't trust you, no matter what you say, even if it's the most accurate, kind of like the most like it's all backed by evidence, if he doesn't trust you, he might still not be influenced by you. He might still say that, I don't believe. I think maybe the data is an issue. Or I don't think it's right. My gut feeling, I've been in the industry for 20 years. Trust me, this is the way you should do it. So a lot of times, I think it's really about building that trust with your stakeholders, with the people that you want to influence. And that influence is given to us by them. Like they let us influence them. And I feel that a lot of times, the first step to building that trust is really going back to asking the correct questions and just really listen to them. Again, it goes back to a bit of like understanding the domain that I mentioned just now. but more importantly, it's really understanding like, what are the pain points, really understanding what are the things that you're trying to achieve. And from there, you can actually kind of build onto the same page and kind of really just kind of share, okay, if I understand you're looking at this, this is how I see it, and like just have discussion going on. And of course, slowly, once you understand them better, you should be able to kind of give them what they want, and at least share with them the trade-offs. Like, okay, if I'm doing this, I might need to maybe forgo certain things. So that's how I kind of go about with like building the confidence in influencing people by really just being being mindful, just listen to them, yeah, and building that trust. Yeah. So that's the first question, I guess. For the second question about creating learning opportunities in like, let's say like my past companies, right? I think for me, I think one of the core things is that at the end of the day, especially if you're looking at during company time, right? No doubt whatever you do, I think out of politeness to the company, right? You still have to ensure that there's some value to the company. You can't just like, oh, I want to learn React, even though the company is using some other framework. So for me, right, I think a lot of times is thinking about how certain things you're trying to do can be help the company. And once you find the opportunity, you can kind of try to create a chance to say, hey, maybe this thing can help the company in a certain way. So I can share one example in the past. So this was when I was still in Carousel at digital marketing team. So because I was actually working with many digital marketing managers, and I actually saw a situation where I was doing a lot of ad hoc data requests, and I just need to like create like email lists and stuff like that for them. So I just said that actually, hey, if there's an opportunity, why don't I just teach you all the basic SQL, so basic SQL, so that you all can just help me do some of my work, and actually free me to do like more high order value kind of work. So in that sense, I kind of pitch it as a way for them to learn SQL, and they're quite happy in the sense that at least they felt they could learn something new as well. And for me, not just about teaching people, but also freeing up my time. And of course, I did tell them that it's not like once you all learn SQL, I'll just throw you all and let you all handle it. I'll still be there to kind of oversee and ensure that the code is correct. But at the end of the day, I kind of see it as a joint ownership. And they also feel that they can actually grow and learn as well. Yeah, so I always feel it's important to kind of find learning opportunities that align with your company's current direction as well, I think at the end of the day.
Got it. So a lot of time the opportunity is really self-engineered. You can create it your own. So with that, we'll end with two questions. One is something similar on the third one right now on the screen. No, I'm sorry. The first one, Sarah already pinned it. How do you get opportunities to develop technically when you don't have a tech leader in your organization? I'll ask Victor to shed some light on that. And then the very last one, I think let's end with some personal touches. You know, we are life stagers. we are mid-level, not just in career, but also in our life, right? So Hubert, can you share how you balance your family needs to work abroad and become a tech leader? How does these considerations coexist or work enhance each other? Right. So let's start with Victor, please.
Yeah, so I know one of the ways is to look outside of your company. So I'm not suggesting you change your job first, but one way is to for your own learning purposes, it's always good to have to be part of a community, learn from others. So for example, I am mentoring with a team and organization in Singapore called Junior Dev Singapore. So there are a lot of junior developers there. They may or may not be getting the support they need to grow at their current company. So when they join mentorship programs like this, other senior leaders and engineers can directly help them answer their questions. So we can give them suggestions on how to solve maybe a technical problem that they are facing, or maybe they are thinking about like career, should I become a manager or not? So this actually helps a lot, and such connections and such a network is something that once you build it, you own it for the rest of your life. It's not something that is tied within a company. So yes, while it's great to have someone who can work with you day to day your issues, but something that builds has a longer lasting career impact for you would be that network that you build. So I would highly recommend being part of such a community and network.
Thank you, Victor. So Hubert, the wife and children situation. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think having a family at first it definitely could feel like a constraint because you couldn't work say 20 hours per day anymore. You have to spend some time with the family, and especially with the newborn, they don't negotiate with you, they just cry, and when you need to change diaper, you have to things like that. So that's part of the stage of the life. I would say from my experience, I would say you have to adopt, and I have seen a lot of leaders, they actually orient their working hours around the family, not the other way around. Don't ask your family to work around your work schedule, because nowadays, especially in the software industry, I believe there are flexibility, there are work that you can actually take home. I have actually a lot of my co-worker before it, they went home like 5 o'clock to pick up the kids, right, and then have dinner with the family. But we actually exchange Slack message after 8 o'clock until midnight, and then that's actually free time for a lot of parents. So you can, and actually also focus time for a lot of big decision. I found that very helpful personally as well. And other people, they use different approach. Some people, they actually go to the office super early, like 6 o'clock when there are fewer people in the office, so they can get a head start for the day. So you want to be able to work around orient your work so that you can prioritize some of your family. So, and the other thing I learned is that it's key to enjoy your work, right? So we all want to make sure our family can have a comfortable living, and sometimes we might pursue a better pay for that. But on the other hand, if you don't feel happy and bring that emotion back home, no one wins in that situation. So I think that's the other learning I want to share. So you have to think about that. And personally, I actually during pandemic, I actually work in Taiwan, but I live in the US time zone. So I got out after midnight and work until the morning. And that, so I have very few time to interact with my kids as a result, right? So that wasn't worth it in the end. So I think that's the other learning I can share, and your health as well, right? So in the end, if you don't have a good health, that's not great for your family.
Yeah, maybe it's as a matter of fit. I'm sure that you have your personal situation that you need to consider, and there are options, different job offers that you might be able to find something that works the best, that will allow you to manage your life considerations and allow you to grow professionally as well. So hopefully through the community, we'll be able to share and facilitate different opportunities so that the very diverse personal needs can be met with flexibility. So with that, thank you so much for Cliff, Victor, and Hubert for the sharing. I'd like to move on to invite Sarah to share with everyone in terms of how we plan to design RISE, and what kind of environment we want to orchestrate. What are the elements that needs to be in place to facilitate learnings and overcome mid-career challenges. I apologize that we overrun a little bit, but there will be another 10-15 minutes of sharing so that you can assess if this is the right program for you. You can know if you want to invest part of your time other than working at your current job, fulfilling your responsibilities, and then interact and learn with other high quality peers at the same time. Sarah, off to you.
Okay, thank you, Yoshi. And thank you for all the panelists today. And so now I would like to tell you about how can RISE help. So in our panel, we heard a lot of idea exchange, and we believe that with this kind of idea exchange, we can get a lot of inspiration. And we don't want this inspiration to stop after today's events or just one communication between our experts. We want it to be sustainable. So that is why we make RISE. So RISE offers expert-led live course and high quality peer community, peer community to help tech talent become tech leaders. So in RISE, we have 3 key aspects that we think that it can help you to grow to the next level. And so next on, I will elaborate further on these 3 aspects and why we think they are important. So first one is the live courses. So unlike many of the online learning platform where you can learn and maybe through videos or participants asynchronously, a big part of RISE experience is that we will ask you to attend our live session, not just passively participate, but join and have interaction with others. Because we want you to learn above and beyond and get feedbacks in real time and have discussions with your peers. So here are some examples of our live courses. So for the first one, you can see in the live courses, you will turn on your cameras on and you can see your peers. So see how lovely these learners, or we call them riser, how lovely they are. So you can see there are a lot of peers that are willing to learn with you. And the next one is that in the live sessions, we have a lot of practice, not only framework practice, but also the different industry case study practice. So this one is a data engineering skill set thinking framework we use in the live session. So the picture is a little bit small, but you should be able to tell that this is really a comprehensive framework to build from the instructor's experience. And also we have different case study from different industry. So this is the case study from the e-commerce industry, and the below one is the is from string industry, and both of them are where our instructor are specialized in. And that's you applied what you learned into your career. So this is Riser presenting their solution to the use case they raised by themselves. So after their presentation, they will get critical feedbacks from experts and peers. And the next aspect is top experts. So who you learn from matters. And there's many times and many things that you cannot learn internally, especially, for example, when your company is not on the stage yet, or when desired capability is not in place yet. So we want you to learn from people from different industries and career stage who have solved next level problems, and it can broaden your horizon. So today's panelists, Hubert, Cliff, and Victor, are all our instructors in our spring cohort. So this is a quick glimpse of our other RISE experts. So they are not only experts in their own field, but also passionate to empower our talents. And the last aspect is leader community. Just like motivational speakers Jim Rohn famously said that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So we believe that learning with quality peers can best accelerate your growth. So this is why RISE is a selective program with limited seats. So if you're a person who is in the related background or industry, and you want to level up your career, also you want to grow, you have growth mindset and community spirit, then you are the person we are looking for. So here are currently in our RISE communities who your peers will be. So they come from all kinds of background, including like Google, Meta, and Line, and etc. Yeah, so in community, not only you will have the peer relationships in only 6 weeks course, but apart from the live courses, you'll also get 12 months access to our RISE exclusive Discord server. And also there will be monthly online events. So it's really good to have people to understand your pain and help you grow. And even best is that you can interact them with fun and memes. Yeah. So this is what the three factors, or you can say three aspects that we value in RISE. So later on, I would like to present to you our spring cohort. So in spring cohort, we have 3 courses and 100 seats. And in these So these 3 courses cover software development and data and management. So I would like to again invite our instructors to share one-line highlight about the course and why they believe that the topic is critical to mid-career growth. So I will start with Victor, and then Cliff, and then Hubert.
Yeah, sorry, mine is
So
2 lines. Okay, but yeah, for I think most of you know by now, modern backend systems such as like microservices are actually all distributed systems in disguise. And some of you may or may not have the opportunity to explore or work on such systems, or rather the entire system in your current workplace or your current work scope. So what we've done is that we've designed this course where you get to learn both the key concepts, and you will also get a chance to explore all the various different type of tools to help you build a complete and scalable distributed backend system through the course project as well.
Thank you, Victor. And then next is Cliff.
Okay. So for mine, right, I feel okay, it won't be one line as well, but I'll try to make it short. Okay. But I would say a lot of people in the data industry, they don't really have time to kind of sit back and really think about like how the organization is organizing the data, how they could be, like planning their career roadmap and stuff like that. I feel a lot of time is just rushing to kind of clear stuff. So based on our experiences, we kind of actually structured this program that kind of allows people to kind of really think through about some of the stuff that your company is going through. And yeah, so just let you go deeper into how data can be used within your company.
And last but not least, Hubert.
I think for this course, we want to help you go through the journey from IC to a manager. It could be bumpy, right? But that's okay. And we will build a community to support you. And then you might be able to make some lifetime friends as well. I hope that we can create a community to support you so that in the end, this will have a lot more great engineer manager, and you could be one of them.
Okay, so thank you all for introducing the course, and all of the information you'll need to know about the course is all on our website now. So there is a QR code here, and you can just scan it and to get more information. So let me talk about a little bit about how to join the application process. So like I said, RISE is a selective program with quality peers. So there is a application process, and we will the applications are reviewed in role basis. So I will recommend you to apply before March 31st to secure the seat. And this is what you will go through in the admission process. So first you will apply, and then you will have an interview with our RISE admission committee. And then if you are the right person and we think that we can help you to grow, then you will be able to enroll and join our RISE community. Okay, so there's some time estimation for you to refer to. Okay, so because of the time limit today, we are not able to answer all the questions about the RISE program, but we have prepared a very clear FAQ pages. So it's also in our website too. So if you are interested in details, you can go to this page for more information. Okay, and one more thing before we end the events. So we have the event survey for today's event. And if you're feeling today, we will get you can get an exclusive spring cohort syllabus immediately. So this will help you self-assessments, which course fits you more. So I will leave this page for a couple of seconds so you can scan the event survey. Also tell us about how you feel about today's event so that we can improve and bring up the needs of yours. So give everyone some time to get into our survey. Great. Okay, I think everyone has already get into the event survey. Okay, so last, I would like to end up today's events with a photo. Not this one, but I hope that everything that we talked about is covered and that you know more about how our life course, top experts, and leader community can help you. And yes, this is the photos that I want to end up with. So this is the photo from Rice Gathering Dinner in February in Taiwan, Taipei. And I remember the fellows were talking about how nice it is to have rice connecting them together. But I think a great learning environment cannot be built by a single person alone. So everyone here is a contributor to our rice community. And we sincerely invite you today, who you joined the event today, to join our community and co-create this community with us.
Thank you, Sarah. Perfect time management. We only extend our session by 8 minutes. So I thank everybody, more than 100 people here who stayed with us for the past 98 minutes. I hope this is a helpful session, and I really want to invite those who share the same passion, be it a junior and who want to go to the senior role, or who are already very experienced, like Hubert and Victor and Cliff, to be part of our community member. This really takes more than a entity to facilitate learning. So if you have friends, or if you are interested in this, please help share the words along. And if there are any questions, feel free to send in inquiries through our RISE email. The email will be rise@alphacamp.co. So we'll be happy to answer any questions. It could be related to how to join RISE for yourself, or how to be affiliated, or how to participate, be involved with this community. We'd like to gather everybody's effort and contribution to make this a better learning community. All right, so I think that's it for the night. Sarah, I think we forgot to ask the crowd to give our panelists a round of applause in our chat room. So let's end this with emojis, clapping emojis, and thank you notes to yourself and to our panelists. I hope this is a exciting and motivating evening. Hopefully you heard different personal stories, encouraging insights, and maybe future peers that you can learn together with. All right, I look forward to seeing your applications.